Have you ever thought about how a promise made thousands of years ago could be tied to a specific four-generation countdown? Well, today, we're diving into a prophetic pattern from the scriptures that does exactly that, connecting a single family line to this incredible story of exile and ultimately return. Okay, so our story kicks off right here. This is a promise from Genesis that sets a really specific timeline, 4 generations. But it's not just about the passage of time. The source argues this is like a divine clock that's tied to justice. The return can only happen when the crookedness, or the iniquity, of the people and the land is, well, complete. It's this fascinating link between a deadline and a kind of moral deadline. All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to trace that initial promise through 2 symbolic witnesses, then we'll see how a rebellion unfolds, we'll watch a period of judgment, and then we're going to end with the promise of a great return. First up, that 4-generation promise. Let's look at the specific lineage that carries this whole prophecy forward. So, who exactly are these 4 generations? Well, the line of promise is super direct. It goes from Abraham through his son Isaac, his grandson Jacob, and it lands squarely on Joseph. And Joseph, the dreamer who was sold into Egypt, he's identified as that crucial 4th generation. He's the one who is physically there to see the prophecy's timeline fulfilled, but in a foreign land. And what's really interesting is that this idea of a generational clock shows up elsewhere. This principle of visiting iniquity to the 3rd and 4th generation, it's not just about punishment. It's presented as a kind of time frame for a moral cycle to play itself out. It's that same 4-generation pattern, you see? It establishes a period for testing and consequence. Okay, so now the story starts to get a little more complex. We're introduced to 2 really key figures, the 2 witnesses, and we're going to explore the deep symbolic meaning of Joseph's sons, Ephrayim and Menashsheh. So these 2 aren't just seen as Joseph's kids. The source interprets them as what it calls prophetic types, which basically means they're living symbols whose lives foreshadow a much larger story. And in this case, they represent the future of the scattered tribes of Israel, acting as witnesses against the nations they're living among, and as this constant living reminder of the call to return home. And get this, their very names illustrate this dual role perfectly. Menashsheh means to forget, which symbolizes the need to forget the pain of the past while you're in exile. And Ephraim means to be fruitful, representing the ability to actually thrive, even in a land of affliction. It's a complete picture of what a scattered people might experience. So when their grandfather Jacob gives this blessing, it's interpreted as way more than just a nice thing to say. It's a powerful prophetic declaration that's basically setting the destiny for the scattered tribes of Israel among the nations. But the journey takes a dark turn here. Now we focus on the rebellion of Ephrayim, which details a pretty serious prophecy of decline. The source points us to the book of Hosea to describe this deep spiritual decay. And this verse, it's pretty stark. It's suggesting that every time there is a divine attempt to heal the nation of Yisra'ელ, it only reveals just how deep the corruption of Ephraim, its leading tribe, had really become. I mean, what a tragic paradox. And this slide, it just lays out how complete that decline was. They were being weakened by outside forces, but they were completely blind to it. Internally, their hearts were like hot ovens, just consumed by rebellion. And then the final critical failure? When they needed help, they turned to other nations, to Egypt and Assyria, instead of their God. They had just completely lost their way. So, this internal decay, it inevitably leads to external consequences. And that brings us to Section 4, the Beast and Judgment, an era of oppression. Here, the prophecy of Daniel is used to describe a new oppressor, a 4th beast. Now, this isn't just another kingdom. It's uniquely destructive power that wages war against the set-apart ones, the faithful people. And for a while, it really looks like it's winning. But, and this is a huge but, even in this bleak vision of oppression, the source emphasizes a critical promise. The beast's reign is not forever. The text is clear that a judgment is coming, and its power will be taken away. This is not the end of the story. So the conflict hits its peak with the symbolic death of our 2 witnesses, Ephrayim and Menashsheh. The beast overcomes them, kills them, and their public silencing is actually celebrated by the world. But even in this defeat, their testimony stands as a final judgment.
But after the darkness, of course, comes the resolution. We've made it to our final section, the great promised return, the call to come home to Zion, or Zion.
And the narrative just completely flips here. A day is coming when a cry will go out from the very same group that represented the rebellion, Ephrayim. They themselves will call for the people to return to Tsiyon, to YHWH, their Elohim, their God. The rebellion has truly come full circle. And this isn't just some vague return. It's a complete and really compassionate restoration. The promise is to gather everyone from the farthest corners of the earth. And notice the detail here. The blind, the lame, the pregnant, the most vulnerable are specifically named and included. This is a promise to turn mourning into joy and sorrow into deep satisfaction. And in this absolutely stunning final act of restoration, Ephraim, the very symbol of the straying, rebellious nation, is redeemed and given the honor title of my firstborn. The one who was lost is found and elevated. It's the ultimate comeback story. So when we step back and look at the whole thing, a clear prophetic pattern just emerges. It all starts with that 4-generation test. Then, a dream gets planted in the 4th generation, Joseph. His sons become 2 witnesses sent among the nations. And their journey through rebellion and judgment ultimately leads to a promise of complete restoration. This entire prophetic journey, from a promise in Genesis all the way to a climactic restoration, it all culminates in this powerful call to action. And so the story ends, but it leaves us with this final, really profound question to think about, drawn right from the narrative's central theme. What does it truly mean to return?